Hello and good afternoon to my home here in County Leitrim and another in the occasional series of Newport County related talks, homilies, letter from Connacht, if you like. And I've decided to do this video mainly because of a situation I find concerning. Whether anybody else does, I don't know. Well, I do know. A number of people have said that they do. But it may be a matter that doesn't interest some people, and that's absolutely fair enough. But as I say, it is something that I think is important, and it is to do with the administration of Newport County Football Club. But let's go about this sort of from the most recent events and move backwards, as it were. Now, if you look at the message board, Newground Rodney, a prolific poster, a man who I've met personally and I like, posted up a post with respect to Bar Amber. It was interesting, it was informative, but basically you're saying congratulations, the bar has been up and running for exactly a year, it's brought money into the club, that's a good thing. And indeed it is, and I don't think anybody wouldn't agree with that. And it met a response, a perfectly reasonable response from Frank Noble, as he calls himself, again another person who I've met, to the effect of, yeah, but in my view it's not big enough. Again, you may think this a perfectly reasonable thing to say, and then this is met with an absolute torrent of abuse, and it is the usual culprits. Somebody calling themselves Stanley Weinstein. We now have somebody new called Brandon Hulligan, great name. Who are you? RNCFC, or however it's pronounced. Bang it in the net. The usual crowd. There are more. And it is quite relentless. They back each other up. Loyal foot will save it, somebody else will come on and agree. So you get this impression that there's a whole host of people who actually want to close down any conversation which is in any way, not just even critical, but anything that questions anything that wants an explanation. This has to be closed down. The idea that it is 7 or 8 or 9 people who all happen to be on the board at the same time, and it really doesn't matter whether it's 8 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon or whenever, is risible. It is a small group of people, I suspect more than one, but maybe only 2 or 3, with a number of identities who want to close down all conversation. Now, you may ask yourself, why is that? Forgive me, this is Ireland and I'm going to drink my tea. Why do they want to close down conversation? Well, now let's go back a little bit further. We know that there have been a number of administrative cock-ups over the last month or so. Far and away, in terms of mistake, the most serious was the offer of employment at Newport County, I think as a communications officer. We'll come back to that later, where the salary being offered was over £1 an hour below the legal minimum. Now, whether a football club, whether any employer should be paying at the legal minimum is something that I would question. But to be offering employment at below the legal minimum is just opening up the club to ridicule at best, and potentially a lot worse. And that, of course, was taken down. We then had the farcical situation with Mark O'Brien, who gets a one-match ban for his sending off in the playoff final. But remarkably, a professional football club don't complete the proper paperwork. He ends up being banned for 2 matches. And something that seemed to upset Michael Flynn, the manager, certainly at first, was the food not turning up, the catering not turning up. Now, all these things can happen. Even in very organised workplaces, mistakes are made. And far be it from me to say that I am not capable of making administrative mistakes myself. I am, I've done so. But this, to me, is a very important point. If you make a mistake, you are accountable for that. If there is to be a consequence, you are the person who has to suffer that consequence. Now, that to me seems to be fairly straightforward. That doesn't seem to be the way things work at Newport County Football Club. Now, then we come to a question. Well, what business is that of yours or mine? Put it most simple, it's this. Newport County Football Club, or Association Football Club, Newport AFC, Newport County AFC, are owned by the Supporters Trust. And that is a trust that has members, it has shareholders. But at the time that the club was bought back, as it were, because it was originally a supporters-owned club, remember, we won't go into that now, it was made very clear the fans were buying the club. And without the fans, no club exists without the supporters. And everybody who's a shareholder of the club or the trust or a member of the trust, in my view, is an owner of the football club. It's our club, and we put in massive amounts of money. We keep on hearing, "Oh, we want investment. We want this. We want that." Well, that is an argument, a different argument for a different time. But at the moment, all the finances coming into Newport County come from the supporters. The gate receipts are monies paid in every time somebody buys a season ticket or buys a ticket for one match. They are putting money into the coffers of Newport County. The fans are putting money in. Every time they buy a programme, every time they take a drink in Bar Amber, every time a person joins the trust or pays their membership of the trust, all those monies come from the supporters. And you might say, yeah, but what about the money that comes from TV? Well, without the supporters who own the club, there is no Newport County to play in the FA Cup, to receive the Sky money, the BBC money, the BT money, the prize money from the English Football League. So that's, to me, it seems very, very straightforward that if we're a fans-owned club, we're a fans-owned club. Now let's move on from that. What's the role of the directors of Newport County Football Club? Well, it's to make decisions as to how that money is spent. And those decisions have to be made solely on what is best for Newport County. There must be no other considerations in play. And also, as importantly, there must not be seen to be the possibility of other considerations coming into play. And that's when we come to the issue of the catering. It isn't about sandwiches not turning up. It's not about sandwiches. It's about Newport County looking at the books, seem to be a business with a turnover the last couple of years of well over £2 million. Now, not massive by today's standards, but not a little corner shop outfit. And because of that, it is absolutely right and proper that some of those jobs are delegated to outside organisations. I have no difficulty with that. Where I do have a difficulty is whether or not all of those, other than the very small jobs, I mean, clearly if the electricity fuses and you have to call an electrician, you don't want to be putting that out to tender, you just call an electrician or whatever. But where contracts are of a considerable sum of money, £10,000, £15,000 or whatever, and those contracts will exist, and rightly so, my view is they should be put out to tender. Now, you can disagree with that. You can say, no, if a director of Newport County knows somebody who can do the job and will do the job properly at a lower rate, the job should go to them. Now, I don't agree with that. I think that is the type of thing that can easily grow, so it becomes you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and before you know it, you're into a situation that you never really intended. But that is not what I have such a major difficulty with. What I have a difficulty with is the secrecy of, well, yes, we do give out contracts, but we're not going to tell you who we give them to or what process is involved, because it's a commercial contract, as was said in an email to me, and we don't give out details. We can't give out details of commercial contracts. Well, there's 2 points about that. First of all, in and of itself, it's total bollocks. Let's be quite clear. But secondly, whether a matter goes out to tender or not is not a matter of any commercial contract. I sent a second email to the club pointing this out, and unlike my first email, it didn't receive a response. And this is where I have a problem, because when things are not known to supporters, even though they may be in the public domain, if you look long enough and hard enough, most people are not going to, are they? Most people are actually not that concerned what goes on, as long as they've got their football on a Saturday. Those of us of a certain age can know how quickly that can disappear. But here's the thing. I have been told by 3 former directors of Newport County Football Club that within the club, efforts are made to rubbish anything I say, which on the one hand I'm rather flattered, on the other I think it's rather pathetic. But as it's come independently from 3 separate people, I tend to believe that it's correct. And we can see this, any criticism of the club is immediately met by a standard response. What I didn't know until yesterday, in fact, when I was idly watching the game peter out into a draw between Australia and England, and I just happened to find out something very interesting, because it struck me that all this abuse, which is being coordinated, it was almost as if Newport County had a spin doctor. And you know, there is a firm of media consultants who, in fact, say that, spin doctors, who say that Newport County are one of their clients on their LinkedIn page. They also claim the Labour Party on the LinkedIn page are one of their clients. Who is this company and how much are they being paid? Well, I don't know how much they're being paid. Perhaps they do it for nothing. The name of the company is, let me think now, Kevin Ward Media. Well, there we are. I don't particularly think that that is a situation that should happen, but I do think it's the type of thing that if Mr. Ward is claiming on his LinkedIn page that he has a client in Newport County and he's also a director of Newport County, that is something that needs to be open, not just from people who can be bothered to look at Mr. Ward's LinkedIn page, but should be made known by Newport County AFC to the supporters who pay for their club. That's all for now. More videos to follow.